Promotional consideration paid for by the following. Travelin' Tom's Coffee Truck, the delicious mobile coffee truck that brings you the caffeination inspiration you need. We deliver signature coffee products like our Nitro Cold Brew and Caramel Frappe to any occasion or festivity. And for those who don't like coffee, we offer a variety of delicious hot chocolates, energy drinks, lemonades, and teas. That's Travelin' Tom's Coffee Truck. All right, welcome back to another edition of the Goblay Show. I'm your host, Billy Goble, and today we have a special guest. She is a friend of mine from Disney that we worked years ago in the entertainment department. And so without further ado, I want to welcome Miss Christine Cartell to the show. Christine, welcome to the Goblay Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It's so good to see you.
I wanted to, I could talk to you about Disney
of course,
all day and talk about, there's still plenty of time to talk about some stories, but I want to kind of shift gears and talk about you and we talked about after you left Disney, and you moved to New York, and after Tokyo and all the Disney stuff was out of the way and you went to New York. Some of the roles that you've done now, you've done some TV roles and some, how did you, I know you said you were a theater major, but is that something that you were, just stumble across, or did you, have to talk to somebody, your agent, or you have an agent, or what's going on?
It's so the thing, it's like anything, everything takes more time, money, and energy than you want it to, especially time. Right. I went to work for Disney for 6 months. And 11 years later. But I didn't have a show. Musical theater was my first love. I grew up doing community theater and, high school theater. I went to college for it. And it's I didn't have a showcase, which is, when you're in your senior year, you have a showcase, you go to New York and you showcase to agents and managers and casting directors so that people have an introduction to you and what it is you do. My husband didn't have that either. Right. And so, I was coming to New York and I'm like, okay, I don't think I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to figure out something else. I'm going to go back to school and get my degree in something else. And that lasted about 3 weeks. And in some ways there were weird opportunities that were finding me. Like I got engaged and I ended up doing a bunch of television spots for the not.com. And I ended up on an episode of when it was Regis and Kelly, doing a real people modeling thing. There was just things that we're doing that. And I went back to voice lessons and was like, oh, okay, this is, I'm not going to shake this. So I, was taking classes and things like that. And, I would go, I had my big girl job so that I could survive. But I also just, I would go to auditions for musical theater and I'd get called back and then they'd be like, great, now dance. And while I was I was a face character who could move very well at Disney, a dancer, she was not. She's a mover. On a very good day, I would move well, but I've never been a dancer. And so it wasn't until somebody was just like, hey, there's that camera. Try that. And I took my first commercial class. And then that casting director was like, hey, you should do this commercial audition. And I ended up booking it and sort of started taking more commercial classes. And finally, I went to this, you go to your pay to play things where you pay to take a workshop with a casting director or with an agent. And I did this panel and I met with a couple of commercial agents. That was my way in. I don't know why, but that was my way in. And I wrote my own commercial copy. Okay. So that's what you do. You'll go in for them and you'll talk a little bit and, because it's kind of like speed dating, right. Do I like you? Do you like me? Are we vibing or whatever? And I remember this, I went into, there were 3 or 4 different commercial agents. And one of them was one of them was a big agent. And he was very oh, you're a copywriter too. Cause I'd written copy based on experience that I'd had, just recently. This is the whole right what you know thing. And it was about a friend of mine that I was in her wedding and I had just booked my flight. And they changed that, like literally changed, like they're like, we're postponing the wedding. And I was like, cool. And I was able to like, because it just happened. And I was able to like get my money back and cancel my flight because it was within whatever. So I wrote a commercial about that, about being a bridesmaid and, they decided to elope in Vegas. That's not what they did, but you
right.
embellish, right? And about Delta's 24-hour risk-free protection, blah, 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 whatever. And they were just like, that's a weird thing that's like reads more like an infomercial. And also like nobody's doing commercials like that. But the delivery and the story, whatever. And like, I think my line was like something about the bridesmaids dress. Like, I'm sure I'll wear it again, whatever. And the one from like the big agency's like, oh, he's like, you're a copywriter too. And I'm like, oh, sure, whatever. And then this other woman, she was like, she's like, and I wasn't wearing much more makeup than I am right now. And she's like, she's like, you're very good. She's like, but if you wore less makeup, you could pass for young 20s. And I was like, mid 20s. And she's like, you could pass for it, but you're wearing theatrical makeup and you're wearing it very theatrically. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. She's like, but you're very good. And I was like, so not not, this is not. Okay, cool. And then this other guy that I met, who ended up being my first agent, he was like a mid-range commercial agent. He was great. We gelled. I booked some stuff with him, and then I moved on to a better agency.
Right.
That like there was nothing wrong with that agency. It just like I wasn't getting out as much, and like there was a casting director who was like, "Hey," because I would book in this one office all the time, and if I wasn't booking, I was like at the end all the time.
Right.
And he was like, "Listen," he goes, "I need you to be with a better agent." And I was like, "Oh," I'm like, "I thought." And he was just like, I need you with a better agent. He's like, these are the agencies that I call when I need people immediately. He's like, and then I call them asking this, I call your agency for you. And I was like,
right.
Thank you. That's very kind. And so that's why I ended up with the commercial agency that I've been with since then. I love my commercial, and I'm with them for voiceover, and they're amazing. Theatrically, it's a little different. Like I ended up doing a lot of these same sort of casting director workshops, classes. It's not one of those things. It's like a necessary evil, especially if you didn't come to the city with a showcase, or you didn't go to, Juilliard or Yale or Carnegie Mellon or U of M, one of those schools, and have like, and immediately get like a really fancy agent or manager. Then you do a lot of these pay to play, things where you're with casting directors. And I ended up being a reader.
Gotcha.
I was a reader at ABC for like 4 pilot seasons, and they only gave me like 2 auditions ever. It was great. And I was a reader at NBC, and like they would call me in, and like you start to actually get auditions for things. Like, let me call you in for this. Like, let me call you like my first series regular audition. Not that I've had a lot of those, but that was based on I reached out and I was like, hey, just checking in. Wanted to let you know that I've done this and this and this. And he was like, I want to see you for this part. And that was just timing, right? That just happened to be a thing. And like, I didn't know when I went in for it, there was already an offer out, and that pilot didn't end up going anyway, but it was just like, it's with that. So I have, and I've had good agents, and I've had terrible agents.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following. Webster Ace Hardware and Farm Supply are generous sponsors for today's podcast. They have been a family-owned business for 27 years. This helpful hardware store sells items such as archery, Ariat clothing and boots, Wrangler jeans, case knives, Hammond's candies, and live fishing ware. They also have a full selection of hardware, RV supply, propane, Ben Moore, Royal & Clark, and Kingston paints. You need a barn or fencing job done? Custom barn kits and roofing metal are provided at your local Ace Hardware store. What about a new grill for the yard? Traeger, Big Green Egg, Weber, and Blackstone are found here, along with all the accessories to go with them. Stock up your workshop with DeWalt, Milwaukee, or Craftsman tools. They got you covered. Remember to go to ace.com to shop their entire line to have items shipped directly to the store.
I had, I had an agent who did something really awful, like tried to do a bait and switch for me and my husband once. Like really dirty, like,
yeah.
I've had some experiences, I'll put it that way.
Right.
And, Am I where I want to be in my career? No, I'm not close. But yeah, so that's how it started for me. Is I got my foot in the door commercially, and then and infomercials and hosting, and I hosted a game show for a while, and we've done some TV and some film and whatnot, and getting back into singing now, because it's like I just kind of walked away from it for like 15 years.
Right.
And it's what's fun is that, so we're touring with Les Mis. My husband is Jean Valjean, and he's been doing this role. He's done over 1,300 performances in this role, because he did it pre-pandemic, left for a brief time, and then the world stopped. And then he relaunched the tour this time. And the first song that I ever sang as a solo in public was Castle on a Cloud.
Okay.
And which is Little Cosette sings. And now and I have an aspiring little Cosette who is singing Castle on a Cloud all the time.
Oh.
So we'll see if she gets in the show. She's kind of got the bug though. Like
is she like your mini me? Like she's like, you see yourself in her?
Oh yes. I mean, personality wise.
Yeah.
Oh yes. She is physically a really good mix of Nick and I. A really good mix of Nick and I. But she is, I see things, and I'm like, oh, okay. So like, yeah. So, but it's also like, becoming a parent, and it's, at least for me, it's been a lot of like sort of reckoning with how you were parented and what you definitely don't want to, what cycles you want to break, and what cycles you're like, oh, yeah, all right.
Yeah. There's definitely some things that you want to keep around. And there's some things you're like, you know what? I didn't like that policy when I was a kid, so I'm going to go ahead and get that, veto that right out. I'm learning, because I have a prefab family. Like I call it a startup family. I married Nicole back in May.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So she's got a 17-year-old daughter and he's now 11-year-old boy. Okay. So Caden and Jace. Caden she'll be 18 in let's see, December 24th. So Christmas Eve. Yeah. I almost forgot. I don't know how I forget that day, but it's funny because it's like two ends of the spectrum. I've got like, I'm almost grown, and I'm independent, and I want to do things for myself, and I want to go do things that reminds me of myself. And then I've got Jace, he's just a how do you say it? Charism. I don't know how to say it. Charismatic. Thank you. Charismatic, young person. He's just a little, a guy that loves everybody. And it's amazing how he's very smart. And so I'm like, okay, I can't help you with all that, because, kids are asking, hey, he never asked me for homework advice. And I told him flat out, I don't do homework. I didn't do homework when I had homework. So, I mean, I could try, but you're probably going to be able to figure it out before I will. But they're great. So what, I don't know what it would be like having a 4-year-old. She's 4?
She's 4.5. Yeah.
She's 4.5.
Awesome.
Okay.
She's awesome.
Yes. And so Jace was, let's see. So Nicole and we were together almost 5 years. So he was 6, almost 7.
Okay.
And he was real quiet in the beginning. And then he's just like, first thing he says, he gets up, he's like, hey, he calls me Billsome. So
that's so cute.
I did a podcast with a guy that I know. He works for the Pittsburgh Pirates, Michael McHenry. He does the color commentary, and we went to Pittsburgh last New Year's Eve, and he came over, and I had said my son, and then I said Billsome, and he goes, "Wait, your son calls you Billsome?" And I was like, he's my stepson. He's like, oh, okay. But he was like, oh, you're a very progressive person. Parent.
Listen, Sullivan learned Nick's name not long after she learned, she started like talking. And so she'd be like, and she would hear me go, Nick. So she started going, Nick. And I didn't know she knew my name or not. So like, she was born at the very top. She was born April 2020, beginning of April 2020, right? In New York City, the epicenter of at that time. And she came 3 weeks early because she was due on my birthday. She came 3 weeks early, and that was a whole traumatic. It was a time. It's part of our story, but so we didn't go, that's why we bought a car. So we didn't go anywhere for the longest time. We couldn't. Right. And then all of a sudden we're on tour. Like, she was not yet 2.5 when we started this tour this time. And she was very much the same. Like, she was just like, she was always like at the playground or anything. Like, I mean, because, everybody was masked for so long. She was just like, are you a kid? I am also a kid. Let's be friends forever. But adults, she was just like, oh, please don't speak to me. Please don't look at me. Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. And we went on tour. We left for tour late September of 2022. And by January of 23, she was like, nope, I like humans. We're good. I like adults too. We're fine. I like people. And since then, the child has not met a stranger. But I remember when we were traveling, one of our first flights, and, you go through, because we fly so much, we have clear and pre-check. Right. And at clear, they don't always do this, but they're supposed to. They'll be like, "What's your name? Who are you traveling with?" Like you're going
on a cruise and do the same thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so,
do you know who this is? Is this your mommy?
Who are you traveling with? Right. And I didn't know she knew my name. And she goes, and like, who are you traveling with? And she just kind of like looked at them and she goes, who is this? And she goes, she doesn't say mama. She goes, Christine Cartell.
Wow.
And I was like, first of all, I didn't know you knew my name, my not mom name, but I didn't know you knew all three of them.
Yeah.
And she was just like, Christine Cartell. And I was like, and they just kind of look at me. I'm like, no, that's correct. And she goes, and who is this to you? They go, is this your, and I go, what do you call me? And she goes, oh, mama. I was just like, so
that's funny. Yeah, you're like, what's with the formalities? I mean,
I was like, oh,
you're like, wow.
Pat's Taps at Catfish Johnny's. Pat's Taps is Lake Penosofsky's newest tap room, offering 14 rotating craft beers on tap. We also offer bottled domestic beers, seltzers, ciders, and wine, as well as a variety of appetizers and puff. Our family-friendly tap room is a great place to come hang out and enjoy some one-of-a-kind craft beer. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or the Untapped app.
Well, it's funny because she's hilarious because I have like videos of this one when she was like super little, but self-taping was a thing for auditions before the pandemic. It's been the direction that the industry has been going for a while. The pandemic just like accelerated it and made it the norm and the necessity. Which is a whole other topic that actors will, they either love it or they don't. Right. They want to be in the room, I like both. But she's seen us slate so many times. And when you slate, it's like, you do your scene or whatever, but there's also like, we always want to see a slate. The casting directors, they want to see, like, you have to like, most often it's like name, height, and where you're located or where you're based. So like a slate would be like, hi, you look right into the camera and you go, hi, my name's Christine Cartell. I'm 5'7" and based in New York City. Right. And so she's heard us do that so often that like she would stand against the wall because that's, you have to have a blank background and you go, she'd be like, and I saw Kid Cartell in New York City. And I was like, what? So yeah, that's like,
are we doing an audition tape right now? What's going on?
She's ready, baby. She's ready. She's a showbiz.
She's a Broadway baby. They say that hopefully. She's right. Yeah. Speaking of
if she wants it, I'm not Mama Rose. I don't want to be Mama Rose.
I like that. I like that you don't. There's a lot of people that push their kids into things that they want them to do, and if they don't want to do it, like Jace, he's not really familiar. He played baseball. He loves football. We just got done with football, and all the kids are like, "Hey, we're ready for baseball." And Jace's like, I can take it or leave it. He is
Like,
one of plays.
Yeah, and listen, like Sully has asked because she'll see her cousins like playing soccer. She's like, "Oh, I want to do that." And then she'll see them at dance class. "Oh, I want to do that." And when you're moving around so much, you don't like while she's getting other opportunities and getting to learn things and experience things that most kids don't. She's also not getting to have experiences that a lot of kids do have. Like she doesn't get to. Like we were in Toronto for 10 weeks, and I tried to get her into like, I'm like, okay, 10 weeks. Let's do something. Like, Sully, you want to do dance? You want to do soccer? What do you want to do? And it was time period that we were there was like, okay, yeah, she can totally come to a dance class. However, we're heading toward final recital season, so she won't be able to participate in that. I'm like, well, she's smart enough to know that what she's going to miss out. And I asked her, and she's like, "No, if I can't do it, I don't want to do it." Or like soccer, it's like it was like the middle of. It's the end of the school year. It was just, it's that part's been tough, but I went like this because like, if that's what she wants, and right now that's what she's saying. She's currently obsessed with Wicked. We just took her to her first Broadway. She's seen Les Mis a couple of times but she knows everybody in the show. So like, that's normally I would not do not bring your 4-year-olds to see Les Mis. Don't do that. It's too long and it's dark but she knows every word in the show. Her dad is the lead. She knows everybody on that stage. Like, and she's like, "I want to be little Cosette." Right. So I'm like, all right, let's take her. So she's seen it twice, but then we took her to see Wicked when we were in New York a couple of weeks ago, and she loved it. We're going to the movie tomorrow. It's, she's that's what she's ready for. So I cross my fingers because if that's what she wants, then that's what I want for her. And her, her dad and I have a little experience. We can help her, with that. If she wants to be a business person. That's not an internship I can necessarily help her get. You know what I mean? Like, our area of what we know and who we know and like things like that, like, and like coaching her and guiding her is pretty specific. But like, if she wants it, I want it for her. And if not, then it's a very hard industry. Choose something else.
Well,
go into finance or law or something else.
And you're not wrong about the industry. I mean, it's a dog eat dog world. You know what I mean? It's like, a lot of people don't realize when you're growing up and you have these dreams and ambitions about doing things like that. Like I always wanted to do film and get into some kind of film. So that's why I went to Disney. Because I thought, oh my God, they have the studios, but they don't even do anything there. Like they got rid of that years ago. Well, I didn't know what freelance was. I didn't know that they subcontracted all these things out where a company comes in and does all this stuff. I had no idea. So I get there and I'm just like, what do I do now? So, you know what I'm saying? Like, so if you get, all I can say is do your homework before you really want to do something, because it could change so quick.
Yeah. It changes. And also like finish school, have something to fall back. Cause like I didn't. And I had a big girl job for 16 years while auditioning and stuff like that. And it's my biggest insecurity that I didn't finish because I went to work for Disney for 6 months.
Right.
Disney will be there. Get your degree. New York will be there.
True.
Hollywood will be there. Like it will be there. Just get your degree. Just do it.
Yeah.
I don't care what it's in. Just get a piece of paper. But that's like you also think you're going to do one thing. Mm-hmm. And then there's like, and there's so many things to learn. And the one thing that like, cause Nick does press for the show all the time. And he does these Q&A, travel day Q&As. So on Mondays, he'll put up a question box and answer. And like, if he's driving, he loves to drive. So like on the occasion that we're driving between cities, I'm the one facilitating all of his, answers. He's, he'll dictate or we'll do video or, whatever. But like something he gets asked all the time is like any advice for like somebody who wants to pursue this or go to college. And his whole thing is just, is always do everything you can, learn everything you can. If you're going to do theater, then it's not just about being on stage. Yes, you need to take your classes. You need to know how to do all of the things to be on stage. You please go to acting class. Do not just wake up and think that a headshot is all that it takes. It is a craft. Yes, if you want to be in musical theater, you got to learn to dance, act, and sing. Like you have to do all three of those things if you really want to do musical theater.
Right.
But also you need to know what it is to be backstage. You need to understand what it's like to do wardrobe and lighting and sound and front of house and stage managing and, company management, all of those things. It's only going to make you easier to work with and more appreciative of what it actually takes. Because, we would say this at Fantasmic all the time. There's the stage, there's the show that you're seeing in the audience, but there's a whole other choreographed stage show happening backstage that you're not seeing. Yep. And actors are like, and this is the same with film and television. Actors are the last piece of the pie. Everything else has to be secured. If it's, source material, rights have to be acquired, directors, producers, everybody, the money has to get there, the locations and all of the crew. Like your crew is there before you, your crew is there after you. Don't be an a-hole. Like, first of all, be kind to everyone, but also learn everything that you can, because the PA who is coming to fetch you from your trailer, that person could end up as your first AD. That person could end up as your director. That person could end up as your DP. You don't know where that person is going to end up.
True.
And it's the same thing. Like if you're in line for an audition, you don't know who the monitor is. It's things have changed a little bit, like with equity and stuff like that, but you don't know who's in that hallway, hearing you speak to other people, watching how you interact with your fellow auditionees. You have no idea. So be kind. Just don't be an a-hole. Yeah. Like that's kind of what it is. Like,
absolutely.
Because you never know on your way up who you might see on your way down. And that's true. Like, that's one of those things that like people see, you have these dreams, like you were saying when you're younger, you have these dreams and you think about what it's going to be, but all you're really seeing is the top 1%.
Oh yeah.
Of actors. You're seeing, I want to be Angelina Jolie, or I want to be, I don't know, Sydney Sweeney, or whoever it is right now. Okay, cool. But do you know how many other working actors there are?
Yeah.
That are working their butts off? Because that's the whole thing, is like people think that, actors are, wealthy, and some of them are privileged and wealthy and Nepo babies and everything else like that. But they're actors, theater actors especially, but working actors are working class people. They are working class. They are not, some of them are privileged and wealthy and elite and all of these things. But most of us aren't. Most of us are not.
Absolutely.
And it's not an easy, and I don't subscribe to it. If you can do anything else, then you should, because here's the thing about actors. And I think people in show business in general, we're resourceful. We can do a lot of things, and we can do a lot of things well, because if you're curious about humans, as you should be, especially if you want to be an actor, if you're curious about humans and how to get in somebody else's brain, or how to walk in somebody else's shoes, then you should be able to pick up some other skills.
Right.
And you know what I mean? Like the big girl job I had for 16 years, I didn't go to school for that.
Yeah.
It happens to be another set of skills. I happen to be able to assimilate into a corporate world and a corporate structure. And I happen to be able to use my, I was also an English major, my writing and proofreading and editing skills. But I'm not a finance person, and I worked in finance for 16 years. Like, and they're trying to hire me back remotely because they can't find somebody else to do what I did as well as I did it, and as efficiently as I did it. And a lot of the reason I had to be efficient is because I had other stuff I wanted to do. I have auditions, you know what I mean? Like I have auditions that I want to go to. I have a show that I'm hosting. I have all of these other things that like, this is the thing that's paying my bills.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's soul sucking. But if I'm good at this, if I'm a pro at this, it helps to support your habit.
Well, I think when you're talking about, a production within a production itself, you're talking about everybody doing, things behind the stage. And a lot of people don't want to know how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
They just want the sausage.
Yeah.
If that makes us, that's about the best thing I can give to somebody like a scenario, is because they don't care what the process is of how that you do it. They just want the final product. They just want it on the plate. They want to know what it's like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's the thing is that like, if you see these people like I'm going to go back to a theater example because this is my life right now. We go back to the people who are taking that final bow on stage,
right?
Whether that's Jean Valjean and Les Mis, whether that's Linda and Elphaba who share the final bow in Wicked, whether that's, we just saw Death Becomes Her. You've got Megan Hilty and Jennifer Simard. Brilliant.
Who's the girl that's, and because I'm really bad with names sometimes, but she worked at Disney and she's in Wicked on Broadway. She's
probably
I think she does
a lot of people.
Well, she's an understudy. She's
I don't know which one.
I have to find out who but I saw her pictures on do you know Jennifer White? Jennifer White's friends with her. She went to New York and saw her in the production, but I'm like, I didn't know that somebody from Disney was up there doing that too. I thought it was pretty cool.
That's the thing about Disney. We're everywhere. Disney everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Eden Espinosa was a Disney performer. Taye Diggs was a Disney performer.
That's right.
Like all of these people have at some point,
right?
It's
something,
or will end up. Look at Idina. Look at Idina Menzel. She's Elsa. She was Elphaba. Now she's Elsa.
Right.
But like the people that you see taking those final bows, the people that are headlining, right? Audra McDonald in Gypsy, who's, like those people aren't just the leads of the show. They're leaders. Like that is the point. It's someone who knows how to lead a company. Right. And that means including everyone. That means setting an example. That means having a work ethic that people want to look up to. That means, not just making sure that you are on your, I feel bad. I swear like a truck driver. I'm trying to like censor myself. But you have to be on your shit, right? Like if you are not on your shit, you're not setting the tone. And like, that is what a leader does. And that is for theater. It should be anywhere.
Right.
But like, that's if you're number one on the call sheet for a show. Right. And what I did, and that's like that. And here's the thing. People check up on you. And it's a small industry. Right. I remember before we have friends who knew that Nick had booked it or was very close to booking it before he did the first time in 2017, because they went around and they said, oh, Nick was on the national tour of Phantom of the Opera. You were on the national tour of Phantom of the Opera. What was it like working with him? What would he be like as the lead of a show? Right. And those people were able to be like, oh my God, you couldn't pick somebody better. He's so easy to work with. He's such a nice person. He's wonderful. Right. His work ethic is so it happens all the time. People ask around about you. It's a very small world, and that has lost people jobs too. Right. We know specifically that they're like, oh, do not hire this person. They are a menace. Or they get the job anyway, because sometimes, unfortunately, bad behavior is rewarded. And sometimes it's not bad behavior. Sometimes it's whatever. But like, I remember Nick was driving with the company manager in between cities on the last time, and somebody called to check up on a cast member who had auditioned for this show on Broadway. And they're like, what is so-and-so like to work with? And the company manager was able to be like, he's a really good guy and you'd be lucky to have him. And I really don't want you to take him from us, but I guess I'll act surprised, when he books it. Right. So it happens all the time. Right. All the time.
Catfish Johnny's Restaurant, serving the Lake Pennsauken and surrounding areas since 1990. For the last 33 years, we have strived to serve great food at great prices and a friendly, casual atmosphere. If seafood isn't your thing, our burgers or wings are the best around. We have daily specials too. Check us out on Facebook or Instagram for more information.
Yeah.
And that's what going back to saying about it, be nice. Just be nice to people. And you never know. Well, nice be kind. That is true. That is true. Nice is more, kind seems more genuine.
Nice to be transactional.
Right. Nice seems like it's forceful. Because
it could also be fake and like, because I want something from it.
Yes. We all know about having to be nice when we don't. When it reminds me of, remember the movie Roadhouse? Did you ever watch Roadhouse back in the day?
No, I've never seen it.
You've never seen Roadhouse?
I should.
Not the one with Jake Gyllenhaal, but
no, the Patrick Swayze, right?
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
The only one you should.
I haven't seen it. Yeah.
The only one you should be watching. Okay, but he has a set of rules. He's a cooler or a bouncer. Head bouncer. They called him coolers, and his rules were be nice. And he says, "What if they don't do this?" He goes, "Then you still be nice."
That's right.
And he said something about like, no matter what they do, keep your cool. And he's like, what if he calls my mother a whore? And he's like, well, is she? I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
is she?
Words only empower things if you let it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
so you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was in the late 80s. They tried. I mean, before you resort to physical violence.
Yes.
You be nice.
Be nice.
But that was one of the rules was be nice. And he's like, we only have 2 rules or 3 rules. Be nice. That was one of them. Yeah. And it was like, that has a lot of leadway with, well, what does that mean? Like, do you be nice? Are you nice when you kick somebody in the side of the head, or you punch them out,
or
the
side of the head nicely?
That was a nice kick you gave him.
Well, nicely. Look at my form.
Speaking of like shows, you talking about like, going into something and you not really knowing. For most people, because they don't ever experience this, what you've experienced before. But like, you've been in some of my shows that I watch, especially on Netflix. I got to see you in Blacklist, which was a surprise. I think I saw your post, but I was really, really excited to see you on there. Just like little things like that. When you get there, is it exactly what you think it's like, or is it like, how like you go, there'll be like a collaboration between 2 big artists, and they'll go, well, how is that working with that? And like, I never saw him. Like, he was never in the studio. They just post edited everything. I came in, did something, I laid down a track. And usually it has to do with scheduling conflicts, because it's hard to get people in at the same time. They're all doing different things. But is it the same way? Did you get to meet these people that you work with, like the regular people?
Yeah, so the series regulars. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, the scenes that I've had, like Blacklist for sure. So our scene was myself and the actor who was playing my husband, and our scene was with Megan Boone, who is she's the number 2 in the call sheet for the Blacklist.
Can I stop you real quick?
Yeah, of course.
Megan Boone is actually from Florida.
She's also from Michigan.
Well, okay, so it's a tricky story, but her grandfather is have you heard of the Villages?
Oh yeah.
Her grandfather built the Villages. He's like the main guy. Morse. Her Morse was her family name, and she went to a high school not far from where I live.
No way.
And this literally, they keep expanding. It's like Celebration on steroids.
Yeah, I've seen it.
You've seen it. So I don't live far from there, but but yes, funny story about Megan Boone, which is kind of coincidental. I was like, oh yeah, that's someone from this area on the not another reason why I liked it, but she's a good actress. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. No. So I knew she was from Michigan. So like when we were, you're waiting around and they're lighting things and they have to switch things because everything is pretend. So like take out a wall to shoot the other angle, and because they're gonna do her coverage first, and meaning when the camera's on her, and then they turn it around to do ours, and then they do the shot where we're all in the scene together. And so we were just, in between shots kind of talking about that. And she's like, oh yeah, Michigan. And she was pregnant at the time. And this was 2016, 17. I don't know. It was very cold outside. So we had to go shoot exteriors for photos and whatnot. That's just, I remember it was like, I think it was like on MLK Day or something. For some reason, I remember it was in January. So I don't know if it was like 17, but it's been several years.
Right.
And I remember I didn't know at that point, it must've been 16, because I don't think it was because Nick was not on Les Mis yet. He was still on Phantom. So it was interesting because I wasn't like, the moment for me where I was like, oh, I need to have a child. Because I didn't know. For the longest, I was never really like, I must do this.
Right.
And I was always kind of ambivalent about it. And, if it happens, it happens. And thankfully, I have a partner who is very much like, all right, we'll figure it out. Is when I saw him do Les Mis on opening night in 2017. That's when I was like, because he's Valjean. He goes and gets Cosette. He has this whole thing with her. And I was like, all right.
Duto Realty is a homegrown business with an eye for getting the job done right. From football games to Sunday school and everything in between, these ladies care about our community and the people in it. Helping buyers and sellers in all of Florida with all types of transactions, including residential, commercial, farm, or vacant land. They do it all. They even offer auction services and sellouts to always get the job done right. Whether your water is supplied by a public municipality or a private well, for residential or commercial use, Purified Water Services LLC has the solutions to provide you with simply clean water. We offer a complete line of professional water filtration equipment and accessories. Soft water makes a difference you can see and feel. Water heater and appliances last longer with less maintenance. Iron and H2S filters eliminate iron stains and offensive rotten egg odors and protects your water softener equipment from iron fouling. No matter what your problem is, Purified Water Services LLC has a solution. Contact Kenny Williams at 352-446-2709.
I was sitting with my friend Jillian, who's actually a performer at Disney, and she ended up as a swing on Les Mis later in the run. But she, a very good friend of mine, she and I were sitting next to each other because her husband was also in the show at the time, and so she was sitting next to me. And we talk about this all the time. That she was like, I sat next to her the first time we saw it, and I sat next to her the last time, like right before Nick left in 2019, and she's like, oh, I remember that moment because I was pregnant when he left. And so she goes, oh, I've seen this. She's like, I saw this whole thing happen. But anyway, sorry. So I was not like in a headspace this is a much larger conversation about women and women who work and mothers who work, and especially in the entertainment industry and maternity leave and all. This is a much bigger conversation.
Right.
But I will say, Megan was pregnant. It was also part of the storyline that I was a part of. And watching her navigate what she was comfortable with and what she wasn't comfortable with them shooting. And her protecting her daughter, who wasn't here yet, and protecting, herself and her body and the way that they wanted to shoot her. And they're like, yeah, but it's part of the story. And they're like, this is part of whatever. She's like, yeah, but she's not on contract. She's not being paid.
Right. Right.
And she wasn't bitchy about it. She wasn't unkind, but she was firm.
Yeah.
She was kind. And it was just, as a woman who is also in this industry, not at the place that she is, but who is and was watching and learning from her and watching her stand up for herself and for her unborn daughter. It was something that was it made me feel like, oh, this is possible. Mm-hmm. And that, it was something that I hadn't seen. And I admired her very much for it. And right. She was also a lovely person to work with. She was, a generous scene partner and all the things that you want.
Right.
Because when you're there as a co-star or a guest star, as a day player or whatever, you're there to serve the story. You're there to help move along. It's not about you. Do you know what I mean? It's not about you. You're there to serve the story. You're there to, you need to know what the story is and how you are contributing to that and how you relate and what is your relationship to everything, the person in the scene with you, where you are, all of those, actory things that I'm sure are boring. But to watch her just do that, I was like, that's pretty cool. I thought I have a lot of respect for how she handled it in that.
Gotcha. What's funny, you go from talking to an FBI agent to being an FBI agent
Yes.
on
Yes.
Orange is the New Black. So you like that segue there? I like that.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah. I was like, and I don't think I heard about that episode. And I'm like I'm watching. I'm like,
I posted about it, but here's the thing. I posted about it as it was like one thing, but they cut my lines, so I look like an extra, and it happens all the time. Like they cut my lines. Okay. It is what it is. Like, so I look like I look like the other people in the scene who are extras, and I was like,
you're just standing there. Audition. Yeah, you were like, you were standing there. You're like, I got my badge right here.
I had a gun. I had a gun.
You had a gun.
I did. I had a gun. I had a badge. I had all the things. I had to audition for that role. And then cutting before, I was like, okay, and so like, and I, people are mean online, and like somebody's like, oh my God, what did you do? And somebody like, before I could respond in one of the comments on my Instagram, I don't have a huge following. Like it's not, whatever. I posted about it because that's what you do.
Right.
And I'd forgotten I'd forgotten it was coming out because I think I was traveling. It was like my husband's birthday or something. I think it came out on his birthday or something like that. And somebody was like, oh, she just stood there. I was like,
oh,
cool. I'm like, you know what? I'm not the first person to end up on the cutting room floor, and I won't be the last. I'm sure this will happen to me again at some point.
Does that frustrate you that you went through all that just to be like, because I know that
I still got paid.
I was going to say they're going to do whatever they want with it.
Yeah. You don't have a say.
Right. Okay. I just didn't know if that was like, it seemed like a lot of work to go through for them to go, or like you don't even make it. You know what I mean? Like,
correct.
Yeah.
And it is. And, at the end of the day, you just have to go like, that's showbiz, kid.
Yep. Absolutely.
It is. I still got paid. The check's still cleared. I have the credit. Is it going to get me more roles? Somebody sees that scene and they're like, oh, no, it's not on my reel. It's not on my reel.
But it's on your IMDb though.
Yeah. I didn't put it there, but yes, those things show up because they have to give the credits. I was undercover FBI agent. But I was also an FBI interrogator where I did speak and did have some scenes in Manifest.
I was going to say that next. But I'm glad you did. No. I'm glad you did because I'm so sad that show just kind of went away. Like they
tried to save it.
Yeah, it was one of my dad's favorites. He loved the show. I'm like, it was like the newest version of Lost, kind of. Yeah. Not really, but you know what I'm saying. You got that Lost vibe, right? Yeah, it's funny because Caden, I think, used to watch it, and she, which I had no idea you were on there. I have to be like, hey, did you know that she's on there?
My name.
But yeah, I think it's awesome no matter what you do. If you can see yourself on screen and it's not like the Macy's Day Thanksgiving Day parade,
Dude, don't knock that. That's a dream.
No. Wait. In the crowd waving.
Oh, in the crowd. Okay. All right.
See, you gotta calm down.
I'm gonna let you finish. You're right.
Yes. I'm not taking away from anybody because I got excited for one time. I was my friend Lauren. She was having twins. Twins, it was twins, and she wanted me to do a photo shoot of her maternity pictures.
Are we talking about Lauren Brigman?
Yes.
I still
Lauren.
Talk to her.
Yes.
Yeah, I still talk to her.
I didn't know if you knew Lauren or not.
We went through training together.
Okay, yes. So I did her shoot. Yeah. She was going to be on I'm Having Multiples.
I saw that
on MTV, yeah. And I'm in the very first part. Like it's like very little, but I got so excited.
Yeah, of course.
And it was supposed to be debuted one night, and it was the same day that Michael Jackson died. And MTV, of course, bumped it, because that can be watched later on. This is, a time to reflect and memorialize. But I'll never forget that I was like, it's supposed to come out at like 10 or 11, and the whole day I was like pumped because again, you don't know what it's going to be like. You just know that, hey, I was there, and I remember them coming in to shoot it, but I don't remember, I don't know what's going to happen. So, but it was a very, very But yeah, Lauren let me be a part of that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember. I remember watching it. I remember seeing you.
Yeah, and now her kids work at Publix or something. I mean, like they're like old enough to get jobs on it.
I know. I don't know how that happens. I really don't, because we're not aging at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. We look like we did back in the day before I could go to Jelly Rolls or PI and have a good time.
Same.
I have to tell you though, and you're gonna be very disappointed in me, but I never went to PI.
Never once?
I went during the day. I never went at night. I just wasn't a club person. I never was.
I mean, all right. I never went to Mannequins. I wasn't old enough to go to Mannequins.
Right.
So I never got to go to Mannequins. I definitely was a DD for people who went to Mannequins.
Gotcha.
And once it was weird because like once I was old enough, I turned 21 in Japan, and the drinking age there doesn't really. It's not really a thing. Like you don't get carded over there. Like it's, I mean, like children can't drink, but it's not. And like, that's like the culture is just like, well, the culture over there is just very different. So like by the time I got back and could go into Mannequins, may she rest in peace. I was like, I'm good. I don't really want to.
So the last time before that I had a chance to go was my sister's birthday, and they were going to close it like at the end of September, and her birthday was like, mid-September. Yeah. So we all went over to Orlando and stayed the night and hung up for the weekend or whatever to celebrate her birthday. And they were going to PI, and I'm like, I'm not going. I'm staying at the hotel like an old man. I'm not going. They all went. Well, my sister was engaged. She was supposed to get married either next year or that like the next month, 2 months from then. And she says she's on the dance floor, and I don't remember where she was, but she says she's on the dance floor, and this guy just like hurls his body out behind her and start dancing behind her. He's like, hey, and she's like, hey, I'm engaged, and he goes, it just
that was the correct move, sir. Yeah.
Like I'm not even gonna worry about
and goodbye. Like
see ya.
Well, that was the thing. Is like, what was the other one? Do you remember what the other one was called? I don't remember.
8 tracks. You had 8 tracks.
Was that the one?
Yeah, that was like the I think they played. I think it was it was the 80s thing. They had 8 tracks, they had Mannequins, and they had the Comedy Club, which was like what did they call that? What was that? The Adventures Club. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, man, I could have. Yeah, I was like, man, I could have went to the Comedy Club and did that, but I lived an hour away from Disney, and I'm like, when I got off work, I was like, I'm going home, guys. Like, I'm not at peace.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I didn't realize. I mean, I lived for the most part pretty close because, college program, you're right there. And then I moved to Celebration for a minute. And then I was in the Tokyo room, the revolving. Everybody who moved into that room got a Tokyo contract.
Yeah.
I was on that one. I was the second person. Bob Buchanan was first, then me, and then Christopher Blanchard. Somebody was after me. Like it was this revolve. It's like, if you get that room, you're going to Tokyo, and that's just what kept happening.
Oh, that's funny.
And then when I came back, I lived over by Mall Millennium, by Universal. I lived at Conroy for a while.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But never an hour away.
No, and there were days where I would work till midnight or whatever when I first started. Yeah. I remember driving home, and all of a sudden I'm in the ditch, like because I would like doze off, and the car would start to go. I know. I'm completely lucky that I'm still here because there were plenty of times I can't tell you how many people that I knew that worked in our department or at Disney that died in a vehicle crash going from work or to work early in the morning. They're tired. They work so many hours. It's crazy. And it does happen, but I don't know. It's just, I guess you live and you learn and you go, okay, well that's why I can't go to PI, I guess. Cause I got to go home, get some sleep.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching episode 2 of this 3-part podcast. Tune in next week for part 3.